The war in Ukraine is a tragedy. It is a tragedy for the people of Ukraine, who have suffered immensely. Families have been torn apart, homes destroyed, and lives lost. The human cost is staggering, with countless stories of heartbreak and resilience emerging from the conflict zones. It is also a tragedy for the international order, which has been shaken to its core. The principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity, which have underpinned global stability for decades, are now under threat. This war is a reminder that peace is fragile. The images of destroyed cities and displaced people serve as a stark warning of how quickly stability can unravel. It is also a reminder that we must stand up for what we believe in. The global response, from sanctions to humanitarian aid, reflects a collective effort to uphold justice and support those in need. This war began in 2014 when Russia invaded and annexed the Crimean Peninsula from Ukraine. This act of aggression set the stage for the current conflict, highlighting the long-standing tensions between the two nations. The conflict escalated in 2022 when Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The scale and intensity of the invasion have brought unprecedented levels of destruction and suffering. The invasion has been met with widespread international condemnation. Nations around the world have united in their opposition, imposing sanctions and providing support to Ukraine. This war is important for many reasons. It is not just a regional conflict but a global issue that affects us all. First, it is a major war in Europe. The continent, which has enjoyed relative peace for decades, is now witnessing a large-scale conflict on its soil. This is the largest military conflict in Europe since World War II. The scale of the military operations and the number of casualties are reminiscent of the darkest days of the 20th century. Second, this war has a global impact. The economic repercussions are being felt worldwide, with disruptions in trade, energy supplies, and financial markets. It is affecting the global economy and has led to a refugee crisis. Millions of Ukrainians have been forced to flee their homes, seeking safety in neighboring countries and beyond. Third, this war is a test of the international order. The response of the global community will shape the future of international relations and the enforcement of international law. It remains to be seen how the war will end and what the long-term consequences will be. The world watches with bated breath, hoping for a resolution that will bring peace and stability back to the region. To understand the current war in Ukraine, it is essential to delve into its historical context. The seeds of the conflict were sown with the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. Ukraine, once a Soviet republic, declared its independence, inheriting a complex legacy and a significant Russian-speaking population in its eastern regions. The 1994 Budapest Memorandum saw Ukraine relinquish its Soviet-era nuclear arsenal in exchange for security assurances from Russia, the United States, and the United Kingdom. However, this agreement proved ineffective in preventing future conflicts. In 2014, following a pro-Western revolution in Ukraine, Russia annexed the Crimean Peninsula, a Ukrainian territory with a majority Russian population. This annexation was widely condemned by the international community as a violation of international law and Ukraine's sovereignty. Adding fuel to the fire, a separatist conflict erupted in eastern Ukraine's Donbas region, fueled by Russian support. These events marked the beginning of the ongoing conflict, setting the stage for the tragic escalation in 2022. Tensions reached a boiling point in late 2021 as Russia amassed a massive military force along its border with Ukraine. Diplomatic efforts to de-escalate the situation faltered, and on February 24, 2022, Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Russian President Vladimir Putin justified the invasion as a necessary measure to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine, claims widely dismissed by the international community as baseless pretexts. The invasion sent shockwaves across the globe, prompting widespread condemnation and sparking Europe's largest refugee crisis since World War II. Ukraine, led by President Volodymyr Zelensky, mounted a fierce resistance, defying expectations and inflicting heavy losses on the invading Russian forces. The Ukrainian people demonstrated remarkable courage and resilience in the face of aggression, rallying to defend their homeland. The international community responded with unprecedented sanctions against Russia, targeting its economy, financial institutions, and key individuals. The invasion marked a turning point in international relations, shattering the post-Cold War security architecture and ushering in a new era of global uncertainty. Section 4. The humanitarian crisis, suffering and displacement in Ukraine. The ongoing conflict has forced countless families to leave behind their homes, their livelihoods, and their sense of security. The war in Ukraine has triggered a catastrophic humanitarian crisis. Cities that once thrived with life and culture now lie in ruins, their streets echoing with the sounds of destruction and despair. Millions of Ukrainians have been displaced from their homes, seeking refuge in neighboring countries such as Poland, Romania, and Moldova. These countries have opened their borders and hearts to those in need, but the sheer number of refugees has strained resources and infrastructure. The United Nations estimates that over 14 million people have been internally displaced within Ukraine, fleeing the violence and destruction. These internally displaced persons face immense challenges, from finding safe shelter to accessing basic necessities. The war has had a devastating impact on civilian infrastructure. Roads, bridges, and public buildings have been reduced to rubble, making it difficult for aid to reach those in need. Cities and towns across Ukraine have been bombarded, with hospitals, schools, and residential areas bearing the brunt of the attacks. The destruction of these essential facilities has disrupted daily life and left communities in chaos. The destruction of infrastructure has left millions without access to essential services such as water, electricity, and healthcare. In many areas, people are struggling to find clean water and reliable sources of power, exacerbating the humanitarian crisis. The war's toll on human life is immeasurable. Families have been torn apart, and communities have been shattered. The loss of life is a constant reminder of the conflict's brutality. Thousands of civilians have been killed, including children, and the true extent of the casualties remains unknown. Each life lost is a tragedy, and the impact on families and communities is profound. The conflict has also exacted a heavy price on the mental health and well-being of Ukrainians, leaving lasting scars on individuals and communities. The trauma of war affects not only those who have experienced it firsthand, but also the generations to come. The international community has responded with humanitarian aid, providing food, shelter, medical supplies, and psychological support to those affected by the war. Organizations from around the world have mobilized to offer assistance, but the needs are vast and ongoing. However, the scale of the crisis remains immense, demanding sustained global efforts to alleviate the suffering of the Ukrainian people. Continued support and solidarity are crucial as Ukraine navigates this challenging period, and the world must not forget the plight of those caught in the crossfire. Section 5. The global response, sanctions, and support for Ukraine. The world has watched in shock and horror as the conflict in Ukraine has unfolded, leading to a massive outpouring of support and condemnation from nations around the globe. The international community has responded to Russia's invasion of Ukraine with a united front, condemning the aggression and imposing unprecedented sanctions on Russia. These sanctions are not just symbolic, they are designed to hit Russia where it hurts the most, its economy. The United States, the European Union, and their allies have implemented a wide range of economic and financial measures aimed at crippling the Russian economy and pressuring the Kremlin to change course. These measures are comprehensive and multifaceted, targeting various aspects of Russia's economic infrastructure. These sanctions target key sectors of the Russian economy, including finance, energy, and defense. By focusing on these critical areas, the international community aims to weaken Russia's ability to sustain its military operations and exert global influence. They include asset freezes, travel bans on Russian oligarchs and officials, and restrictions on Russian banks' access to international financial systems. These measures are intended to isolate Russia economically and diplomatically, making it increasingly difficult for the country to conduct business as usual. The measures have had a significant impact on the Russian economy, leading to a sharp decline in the value of the ruble, soaring inflation, and a contraction in economic activity. The sanctions have also led to shortages of essential goods, affecting the daily lives of ordinary Russian citizens. Beyond sanctions, the international community has provided substantial military and humanitarian aid to Ukraine. This aid is crucial for Ukraine's ability to defend itself and to support its population during these trying times. The United States and its NATO allies have supplied Ukraine with billions of dollars worth of weapons systems, ammunition, and military equipment to bolster its defenses against the Russian invasion. This military support includes advanced weaponry, training, and intelligence sharing, all aimed at enhancing Ukraine's defensive capabilities. The European Union has granted Ukraine candidate status, a symbolic gesture of solidarity and support for Ukraine's aspirations for closer integration with the West. This move signifies a long-term commitment to Ukraine's sovereignty and its future within the European community. The global response to the war in Ukraine has been swift and resolute, demonstrating a rare display of unity and resolve in the face of aggression. This collective action underscores the international community's commitment to upholding international law and protecting the sovereignty of nations. However, the long-term effectiveness of these measures and their impact on the trajectory of the conflict remain to be seen. While the sanctions and support have undoubtedly put pressure on Russia and bolstered Ukraine's defenses, the situation remains fluid and complex. The international community continues to monitor the situation closely, ready to adapt its strategies as needed to support Ukraine and maintain global stability.